Welcome everybody to LaunchPad Live. We're here talking with the consultants, contractors, and freelance professionals community. This is a new community that we created at LaunchPad because we realized that whether it's due to the economy or just folks realizing that they wanted to start their own business, we had a large number of members who were really considered consultants or contractors doing their own developing their own business and really going out and trying to develop a network of relationships so they could grow their customer base and fill that sales pipeline and do what they really love to do. But we also realize that that means you're running your own business now, right? And therein lies other challenges. And I was fortunate enough to meet with some folks here in town that run a great organization, and I've asked them to come and be a part of this discussion, and you're going to hear from them in just a few minutes. But we thought it was important to really kind of lay the groundwork for this discussion. And I want to read something to you real quick that I found that really I think typifies, whether you're a business owner, entrepreneur, college student, job seeker, this is something to think about and why we really focus on networking, or what we like to call building relationships. This is a very quick quote. "Networking is the single most powerful marketing tactic to accelerate and sustain success for any individual or organization." And that's Adam Small. And I thought that quote was apropos of really what we're trying to do here and what it embodies what LaunchPad is all about, and really what this organization and other organizations are about. So what I'm going to do right now is introduce Lunell Haught. I always say the other term.
I said, don't be afraid.
Yeah, don't be afraid. Lunell Haught runs Haught Strategies, and she's going to talk a little bit about what their organization does and the consulting professional network, right?
Right.
And so we're going to talk with Lunell for just a minute, and she's going to tee up the group that we have today, the folks that were generous enough to be here today, and talk a little bit about their experiences. And we want this to be interactive. So we want to let them talk a little bit, and it's going to be based on some of the topics that you brought up while you were introducing yourselves. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Lunell, and she's going to be your moderator for today. So go ahead, Lunell.
Thank you. We tried to outnumber you, but I see that we failed. We wanted to have a number of people here, diverse backgrounds, so that you could then follow up with people who piqued your interest. It's comforting to know that we have several decades behind us, been gainfully employed by ourselves, meaning that we're signing our own paychecks. Everything's all right. Our children have gone through college if we have children. And so I want to say, here are living examples of people who have transitioned from a different career and taken up consulting as their career, and they'll tell you what their big backgrounds are. We looked at the idea of a freelance professional, which is typically someone who comes in and does something specifically task-oriented for an organization. So they come in, do it, get out. A contractor who can look almost like an employee, and that's somebody who comes in, they might work for 12 months in an area as a contract to do a specific job. Both of those first two are called, and this could be inside baseball, W-4 employees at times. Then there's a transition to the consultant, and typically I think the differentiator is a consultant is a more long-term relationship. We all have clients we've been with, we keep saying, okay, we're done now, and they call us back. I want to make some kind of a distinction like that, because that may be something that you're thinking about. How should I actually organize my organization? I'm going to give you something to pique your interest. Here's some numbers for you. 7 is a number, 11 is a number, and 10,000 is a number. The number 7 means it takes that many people in a consulting organization to hire one admin person. The 10,000 is how many hours it takes to become an expert. Those of you in investigations probably know this because you may have been on the right side of a court case. When you have an expert witness, typically the minimum is 10,000 hours in something. So when you're talking about your expertise, I think that's kind of a fun number to keep in mind. And here's a woman who has at least 10,000 hours developing her expertise, and I'd like Diane Gibson to share a little bit with you now.
My organization, my consulting firm is DMG Consultancy. In May of this year, I'll celebrate 7 years in business. And one of the primary reasons that I launched from corporate America to my own consulting firm was an opportunity to work with a client of the previous organization I worked with, and that aha moment when you know you're doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing. And it was that caused me to leave all those perks of the corporate job, move to a new town, Spokane, Washington, from Denver, and in a new community and a new network. DMG Consultancy, I call myself an organizational architect. And what I do is I work with small to medium-sized firms to help them build a business blueprint that focuses on culture, strategy, structure, and leadership. All of those things together drive the organization to achieving operational excellence.
Thank you.
My name is Marc McConnell. I'm a financial consultant. And you'll find that if you talk to us, that we'd love to share, we'd love to teach. I'm going to teach you briefly using my own experience and my background. I started out as an accountant. I have a degree in accounting, and I've recently, within the last 2 years, I have a certification from FINRA. My certification, you don't want to know about that. You want to know what I do. What can I do for you? So on my business card, it says financial consultant, investment advisor, representative, registered. You don't care about that. So branding's important. I started out using my own last name, business services. Well, that doesn't tell much to the people who don't need business services. So I registered my company as a corporation, and that doesn't tell people much either if you use the wrong brand. So now my brand is LOL Consulting. You may remember that. That does stand out. It stands for Laugh Out Loud Consulting. Now, you may remember that. You won't remember what my background is. You don't remember what... I like to do that. I have a good time. We have a good time, and we are going to have a good time. But my financial consulting is going to get much better if I use the principles that I'm going to briefly tell you about based upon the one-page plan. I spoke to this man, Jim Horan. He's the president of this company. You may have seen this book. Briefly, what these are: vision, what are you building? Mission, why does this business exist? Objectives, what results will you measure? Strategies, how will you build this business? Action plans, what is the work to be done? 5 simple questions. I carry the slip of paper in my wallet. When I pull that out, it reminds me a business plan is not a one-time thing.
That's great. And you're going to be doing something with that, aren't you?
Go ahead. I'm available to talk about this further at some time.
My name is Jim Barry, and our practice is called 360 Consulting Group. And we provide consulting services around strategic application and management of information technology with a specific focus on business resiliency and business continuity planning. We kind of use a little tagline too. We like to use CIO to go or virtual CIO. My story is that I got into consulting kind of by hapstance back in the 70s when I was working for IBM. And we started a program where we were teaching customers how to manage problems in their IT environment and to manage change in their IT environment, because we found that we, as IBMers, were spending a lot of time fixing things that didn't need to be fixed because customers didn't know how to manage their environment. So I got trained and I started doing consulting on that throughout the Pacific Northwest. From that, in the 80s, I transitioned into business continuity planning, once again trained by IBM, and provided consulting services in that arena through a professional services unit based out of Seattle. And that eventually migrated into the company or the division, which is now IBM Global Services. So I was with IBM until 1994 when I had an opportunity to retire. And I took that opportunity, not that I had a lot of choice, but I took it anyway, and I was in Spokane, and IBM picked up and walked out of the marketplace. They left Eastern Washington and Northern Idaho. So myself and a colleague just picked up what we were doing with the existing customers and kept rolling. So I had a very easy transition into my consulting career. We started a company called Winstar Group, And we also did technology consulting and sold IBM in-range systems and hardware and stuff. The internet took care of that with commodity pricing on things. So in 2003, we split the company. We sold the technology piece to another company here in town, and I kept the consulting piece and have gone forward with that today.
Thanks.
So my name is Terri Krohn. I am with the Matrix Group 360, and I am I consult in the areas of strategic focus and marketing planning. And my route to consulting, I didn't set out to be a consultant, okay? I have 35 years of experience, primarily in the financial services industry, having most recently been a senior executive and marketing director for a financial institution here in Spokane, a regional financial institution. And when I left that corporate job, because I knew throughout my career I'm not really a corporate person. Once a company gets so big that the politics and whatnot start to take over, I've always migrated back to a smaller organization. So that's what I was going to do. And I decided to take some time off. And of course, when I decided to go out and try and find a smaller organization where I felt I could really make an impact, the recession hit. And I wanted to stay in this area. So I began doing consulting kind of out of necessity. I knew what I loved to do. I knew that I wanted to be a trusted advisor to CEOs and senior executives in the area of strategic planning and marketing. I knew I could make a difference. I had the track record. I'd owned my own business for 8 years at one point during my career. So I knew I had a lot to offer, and it seemed like the best way to do it, given everything that was going on, was to go to consulting. And so that's what I have done over the last 2.5 years. The approach that I took was I teamed up with a longtime consultant here in the Spokane area who his expertise is not anywhere near mine. His expertise is in the financial area, entity structuring, that type of thing. But I partnered up with him. He's a well-known consultant. He's excellent at what he does. I've learned a ton from him, and he has guided me along.
Oh, my name's Tim Ward. It sounds like a lot of you are, well, several of you are looking for a transition, maybe doing something different than you were doing before. So I'll tell you how I got going in consulting. I'm on my 17th year now. What I do is coach one-on-one with leaders in business and their team. So I work at the leadership team level, and it's all about coaching. It's all about building relationships and trust. Because if you have trust, you can solve any problem. For 17 years, I was a commercial electrician. So naturally, you go from that into consulting, right? So in that, I really didn't want to be an electrician to begin with, but I saw the miscommunication going on, and it cost so much in morale and money and distress and good people quitting, and it was just dumb. Because in my family, we grew up, we communicated, we forgave each other, or move on. It's just like, come on, guys. So I started educating myself, like some of you have done, over several years of leadership and communication development, and then I decided to quit a good-paying job to take a no-paying job, so it could be where you're headed. So for a year, I didn't make any money for a year. And my wife, we'd been married probably, I don't know how long, 15 years by then, and she's still with me, 33 years total. But I don't know why she did, because it's like, no money, but I figured it out. So you can figure it out. But the biggest thing about staying with consulting is you really got to love what you're doing. And when you hear Mr. Donald Trump talk about you got to love what you're doing, that's what he's saying. If you don't love it, you're not going to stay with it because it's too hard.
Yeah.
So that's what I do, and that's how you can get there. So you can get there. I think you're doing the smart thing. Get around other people, because you can't make it alone. You can get there a lot faster with more people.
The interesting statistic that I was going to share with you also is that about 11% of consultants in the last decade have made more than $25,000 a year. So when Tim says you got to love it because there'll be some dry spots. The number 3 is it takes about 3 years to get enough traction to be able to be gainfully employed. But all of these people did it and are eager to share with you some of their various paths, and you can see how different it is. I'd love to hear you either make a comment or ask a question of anybody.
You guys all had a value proposition that was linked with a specific company. Not all of you, but most of you had you had the muscle already developed. You understood how it worked, but that is representing a company. Did you find that there was a transition of, okay, now that I don't have, I'm just going to pick on you because it's such a big name, IBM. Once you broke out and went on, well, you had an existing clientele that you were still, but the point is, once you hang your own hat and you're representing yourself, did you find that the message to get in the door to establish your proposition as a sole entity, that there was a challenge there without having an IBM type backing behind you?
Yeah, definitely. And the longer we were in it, the harder it became.
When I call someone and say, you should see Dale, or when I call someone and say, you should see Jim, or let me introduce you to, that's worth gold. A really good referral.
And I think everyone would agree, once you establish that, it makes your job much easier, right? And you're starting to talk about projects, and you're starting to recommend and refer one another. Ultimately, that's the goal. And as far as resources, you bring a great point up. We, within this community, will start providing you as members of this community with tools and resources where you can go for help based on whatever it is you're looking for. So if there are local groups, local organizations, there is so much here. We just need to aggregate it and serve it up to you more effectively so we can help you accelerate the process of growing your business. And that's what we'll do within this community. So. Sorry, go ahead.
And the CPN group, I mean, we're not a leads group, but what ends up happening is I'll say, Jim, I know that my client needs help with IT. Or I'll say, Tim, somebody needs some help with coaching. So what else? Yes, sir.
As far as marketing goes and networking goes, what is a reasonable return on investment? Because you could spend all your time marketing, or 95% of your time marketing, and only 5% on your business, and that's not a very effective plan either, I would imagine. So is there some kind of a magic formula, or how do you figure out how much time you spend in the non-paying part to get to the paying part? Because the business of business is business, right? So.
I mean, initially you got to spend all your time marketing unless you got clients, right? But typically, for someone that's seasoned like Lunell, yeah, you would probably spend 25% marketing, 50% delivery, and 25% in professional development. That's going to slip around a little bit, but if you let any of those two bookends go, the center is going to go too.
What I did, because you always have to be networking even when you get the business, but what I did is, I'm big on structure, so I set goals for myself. And I took it down to a point system. Because networking is a lot of different things, and you don't want to feel frustrated with your networking. So I put a point system together, and I said, okay, every phone call I make to try and get a networking meeting, I'm going to give myself 2 points. And every meeting that I get, I'm going to give myself 4 points. And every thank you note or response back, I'm going to give myself 1 point. And if I have to keep calling until I get somebody, I'm going to give myself 1 point. And then I set goals, and I said, okay, how many of these points do I want every month? And I kept track, and it kept me out there doing the things I needed to do, and it helped me see that I was making progress. Now, people who don't like structure and, don't like to follow up and keep track of things, that maybe that wouldn't work for. But that really worked for me, and it kept me focused and on track.
Yeah.
I would like to just add to what Terri is saying. I think the key component of that is the focus and the discipline. Because that then, my new mantra, but it's focus plus discipline equals freedom. If you have the focus and the discipline to do the things that you need to do every single day and not let yourself get sidetracked, as I have probably done, on research or on designing a brochure or on doing those things that are not your core competencies, you will be sorry, because it will be 4 o'clock before you know it. And you won't have the phone calls made. You won't have been doing the business development that you need to be doing. So focus and discipline is absolutely critical. And the measuring metrics It's no different than if you own a manufacturing firm, or if you, no matter where you work or what kind of business you operate, you have to have some sort of metric in place. If you make 3 phone calls today, boom, that moves you closer to your goal, which is maybe 25 for the month. So that focus and discipline is absolutely critical. And I think everybody has gone through that stage of, oh, I should have done it differently.
That's the number one question I get. Terri, thank you for bringing that up, is if I'm spending the majority of my time doing the work, what's the balance of actually finding work? And it's what you're all talking about. And that, I think therein lies maybe the major challenge in the beginning. And what we've been talking about is, could we create this community to the point where you could meet other consultants and contractors and freelance professionals like yourselves, where maybe you start to build those relationships where you start to understand what others do and you can refer one another. So, for example, if I know somebody who's starting an accounting firm, I've already referred some clients to them, but he's been referring clients to me based on what we do. And if you could set up maybe a small team where you start to meet on a regular basis, this shouldn't be a solo sport. Get together for coffee once a week. And this is not a leads group. This is building a trusted network of relationships where you're giving. Your first conversation with these people when you first meet is, what can I do for you? And that's how you want to approach this, is what leads can I provide you, or what referrals can I provide you? And I promise you, and correct me if I'm wrong, it will come back. Any other questions?
Yes.
For my particular situation, I do more than half-time work for one client that's out of state, but I want to grow my business in town. So how do you kind of keep nurturing people and keep people in the queue without overwhelming yourself? I want to meet a lot of people, and I hate to turn people down, but I know that I can only take on a certain amount of business. So I want to kind of have people lined up, or people that I'm thinking of. How do you kind of keep track of what you have going on and anticipate when you're going to need work?
As you go out and you network with people and you talk with people, I think it's really important to develop a database and then communicate with them on a regular basis. So you always want to be in front of them, so that when an opportunity arises where they could use you, they think of you, they don't forget about you. And so I would definitely set that up, a database, and then develop, that communication can be email communication that you send out maybe once a quarter on a service that you provide, or whatever. A newsletter, or you come across an article that you think would be really great, passing that on, that's information. And beyond the database, calling them up and just saying, I'd like to get together for coffee and catch up with you and whatnot. But I think that database is just really important, because that's kind of your inner circle. I mean, I've developed a database of about 150 people that I think are, good people for me to be connected with. And I try and communicate with them on a quarterly basis. And some of them more often.
Tim, how do you keep the queue filled?
Well, I like that idea. It's a great idea. Keep track of everybody put down last time you talked to them and everything. I really think that if we build deeper relationships with fewer people, I mean, you got to do what she's saying too. I would, find some people that you click with and just build that trust. Because if you build a trust and a relationship with me, I'm going to know a lot more people that you don't even know. And you don't do it. I mean, you're doing things that I don't do, so. I don't want to do them. I just want you to do them. But I know people who need to talk to you. But I'm going to refer you only if I trust you, and I've got to know you to do that. So,
another idea for you, somebody gave me this idea early on. Set up your own board of directors or board of advisors, and find maybe 5 to 6 people who you feel would really be good advisors for you, and they're willing to mentor you and support you. And then make sure you're in contact with them on a regular basis.
That'd be great.
I haven't heard a lot about, I heard a database word, but what about technology? What about social media? How does that play? How much time do you use any of that? Does it benefit you? How much time should be spent doing that? I've been working with several different entrepreneurs who are overwhelmed by trying to keep up with social media, and sometimes I thought, why? It's not helping at all, and others I thought, you need to get more out there. What do you feel about that?
But what I did today, and you get on the website, get on LaunchPad, and I'm a member of this community, and also this morning I uploaded my photo, so you'll see that too. So I'm trying this. I'm getting my feet wet, and this is what I've learned, is if you really embrace this, you're going to waste all your time doing that. It's like email. I've set my email up so I can just go through there real quickly and just narrow it down to the important ones, and it's not as you know, it's difficult. But as far as marketing, I'm going to try this, and it's a moving target. It really is. I don't use, personally, I do not use, my broker sets limitations on what I can do. Okay, I cannot tell you I can't give you stock tips here, or could I give you stock tips through email? Can't do it. So I have to be careful about that. But as far as marketing and meeting people, I think what we're doing here is a great idea.
What about this? Yes, ma'am.
How do you determine what the right price point is in order to be able to, since you don't have benefits and you don't have all of those other things, but it's also going to fit the market? Resources for researching that, depending on what you do, that kind of thing.
Well,
I'll comment on that.
Yeah.
I don't think I
I've got
figured
an
it
Go
out.
ahead, Diane. I have something to
But
add, maybe.
it's like anything. It's like the social media. If you don't have a strategy, and one of the key components of having a strategy is understanding what is it I'm trying to do, and who am I serving? Who is my audience? Whether in a speaking engagement or writing an article or providing consulting services. Having a good sense of who you're trying to serve and identifying that target market narrows your focus, so you're not out there serving everybody, everything. And I think that happens a lot in the first couple of years of starting a consulting firm is, I'll take any work. And you really want to narrow that scale down.
You may want to run the numbers. You may just want to go ahead and get into Excel and just put, run the numbers. Set yourself up something. Is it doable or not? Or should I go get a job?
yeah, to kind of add on to that, you can come at it a couple ways. You can do the market research to say, for the kind of skills I bring to bear, a customer will pay $40 an hour or $60 an hour or whatever it is. You can also look at it from what you need to have from a compensation standpoint. Everybody's got that. A little formula you guys can write down. It's take what you want for compensation. Say you want $100,000 a year. You multiply it times 1.3, divide it by 1,040. Do the math, and that equals the rate you have to charge. And that's kind of based on 50% delivery that I talked about before. The 25, 50, 25. Because when you get over 50% delivery, you lose the marketing piece. So that's kind of a nice sweet spot as you grow your practice. But you can take either what the market will bear or what you want to make and see what the market will bear and plug the numbers into the formula.
I want to kind of retrace a couple things that were talked about because I think they're very important. What I heard was, in the beginning, you need to be disciplined. Discipline, to me, I think, is the one thing that I'm hearing from this group, from these professionals who've been doing it for a while, but also people I talk to, is you've never done sales before. Guess what? You're a salesperson now, whether you like it or not. And that's not fun sometimes. You're also a prospector, and you're in business development. So you need to carve out your week, every week, for a little bit of time of prospecting and business development. Networking is part of that. But I was at an event last night for the NABO organization, which is a phenomenal organization, and the guest speaker was there talking about marketing. And she asked a very important question that we haven't brought up today. Do you know who your target market is? That's really important. And you guys help me if I'm wrong, but I want you to leave here knowing that you better know your target audience. That takes some of that guesswork out. I think that will help us as we really start to develop your planning. So,
Our group meets the first Friday of every month, and you are more than welcome to join us at CPN Consultants Professional Network on February 3rd at the Spokane Club on the second floor. We start at 7 o'clock, 7 to 7:30, and then we have a program. So we meet every month except during the summer. We also want to invite you to look at the website, inscp.com.
So I want to thank Lunell for doing a phenomenal job moderating, and I want to thank all the panelists for being here. I think it's obvious there's a wealth of knowledge here, and these folks are willing to help. And this is a phenomenal organization. We want to recommend that you take a look. And they do have a membership program. What's the annual membership fee? $75 for the year.
Mark's the treasurer.
And anyone can join that is looking.
A consultant or trying to be one.
Okay. On the next LaunchPad Live, we'll be talking about construction, engineering, and architects. And please be with us if you can. So thank you all for being here.